Well, let's start with this. What are some of the signs that somebody may be experiencing suicidal thoughts? What do you look for?
Sure. The thing we want to keep in mind is to pay attention to changes in someone that seem outside the norm of how they typically behave or talk or display their usual personalities. So we want to pay attention to things that they may be saying that have become more negative, maybe or seem like they're losing some sense of hope, and changes in behavior that are really starting to get in the way of their day to day. It's getting in the way of jobs, work, relationships, school, things like maybe an increase in using drugs or alcohol. Maybe they're expressing issues with their sleeping, like they're having a harder time, um, falling asleep. Perhaps they want to sleep all the time. And they just seem like they're really pulling away from people and things they like to do. And so, especially if it seems like more than just a bad day, more than just a couple days, but really starting to stick around. And shifts in mood too. We recognize that it looks different for everybody. It may seem like kind of more sadness or being more withdrawn or quiet, but for some people, they get more angry, or they're really irritable. They snap easy. They don't let things roll off their back as much. But we want to pay attention to what seems different for that person, and if you notice that they seem not like themselves, it's worth a conversation.
hmm Well, speaking of the conversation, I've heard before it's okay to ask somebody if they've had suicidal thoughts. What's appropriate to say to someone versus not say? What should you say and should you not say?
That's a great question. I think too often people are afraid to ask the direct question, and they may dance around the topic, and or they may talk to someone else about it, but not directly to the person they're concerned about. And the key is we're not really going to know what's going on totally with this person we care about unless we ask clearly. And when you ask clearly, are you thinking of suicide? Do you have thoughts of that? Is we're going to have a better idea of what's going on. It shows also that you care, and that you're willing to have that tough conversation, and that you're noticing, that some things have been changing and going on with them. And when we dance around it, it shows that we're uncomfortable, and it may shut down that person feeling that they truly can open up about what's going on.
Right. Yeah. I think that's important because I think a lot of people don't realize it is okay to ask that question, even though it might not be
Mhm.
comfortable to talk about it.
Right.
That still could help save somebody's life.
Absolutely. It's not, there is research to show it's not going to put the thought into somebody's head, but rather it's going to help, maybe break some ice on a really, really tough time for somebody, and to get a better idea of what really is going on. It may be that suicide is not, necessarily on that person's mind, but there's a good chance they are struggling with something because you've noticed these changes. And it certainly helps to get them the support they need.
Right. Okay, great. So let's switch over to Dan and I'll
Okay.
just ask you a couple of questions. Um, and you guys mentioned in the email resources that are available. So Dan, why don't you share some of the resources that are available that you guys offer and what you know um, at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention?
So right now, one of the biggest resources for folks who are in that critical stage who are really struggling is 988. You can call, text, it's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's a great lifeline. It's not just for folks who are struggling and are suicidal, it's for people who are going through anything. If you're lonely, it's there so you can talk to someone. If you're worried about someone else, it's there so you can learn more about it. What we do at AFSP is we do a lot of community education. So we're out in the community educating folks on how to see the signs, what to look for, where to go for help. Really trying to foster that help seeking behavior, I think, is important for people these days. And one of the bigger things we do too, in my opinion, is we offer services to folks who've lost a loved one to suicide. I personally lost my father to suicide 34 years ago, and I really struggled with the idea of getting help. But we have peer services now, and I think if I had had that option, I would have spoken to someone who had shared a similar loss and traveled a similar path.
Right. So are you referring to like support groups where people sit down who have lost a loved one and you can all get support?
Yeah, there's support groups, but there's also, even if you're concerned about going to a large group, we offer a program called Healing Conversations. It's a one-time visit with another peer, one-on-one, who's had a similar loss. So, I'm part of the program. So say in the capital region, you lost a parent to suicide, you might be paired up with me. We'd sit, we'd talk, share, a little bit about our journey, let you know that there is hope, there is help, and then share those resources like our support groups, where to go for help if you're struggling and how to talk to your family about the loss.
Is that program free?
It is.
Wonderful.
99% of everything we do at AFSP is free. So
Wonderful.
it's just something you can find right on our website. If you go to afsp.org, there's a section that I need help. And under that, there's one that I've lost someone. It shares that. It talks about International Survivor of Suicide Loss Day. We've also got some short videos on there if you're not ready to talk to somebody, but want to hear somebody who's had a loss.
Okay. Last question. Let's say somebody's watching right now who may be struggling or even having suicidal thoughts. What would you say to them?
I'd say the world's a better place with you in it. Make that effort to see tomorrow for me, see one more sunrise. There is help out there. Just pick up the phone, send a text, dial 988. Someone we can get you help. And like I said, it's a better place with you here.